Hello everyone, it's James here and welcome to this particular presentation, which as you can see from this cover slide is all about coaching models of coaching. So here's a lovely quote here from John Russell, the managing director of the Harley-Davidson Group, who says, you know, I never cease to be amazed at the power of the coaching process to draw out the skills or talent that was previously hidden within an individual and which invariably finds a way to solve a problem previously thought unsolvable. So I think he's summing up there rather wonderfully well, I would argue, really what coaching is all about, the power of coaching. More specifically, this ability that we have as coaches to draw out the potential within the individual that we're working in, potential that was previously hidden. And when the individual, as a result of the power of coaching, starts to unleash that potential, then they suddenly find themselves able to do things that they couldn't do before, solve problems which they didn't think they could solve, finding answers to questions that they thought were unanswerable. This is the power of coaching. So the aim of this particular presentation here is to develop your knowledge, your understanding, and your awareness of a range of coaching models and how you could apply those models, should you wish to do so, to the work that you do as life coaches. So in terms of the objectives, by the end of this particular presentation, you should be able to explain the similarities and differences between a range of coaching models, appreciate the strengths and weaknesses within these models as they apply to life coaching, and then apply what you have learned in your studies moving forward. So as I say, that last objective will remain in place insofar as, you know, one of the objectives for each and every one of your sessions with me is to take what you learn and apply it to your studies as you move forward. So basically, this is what, you know, coaching's about. We've talked about this, you know, the way in which, you know, your clients are achieving new knowledge and adding what they learn from working with you to what they already know. So we're building on experience. So as you work through each one of these presentations, as you work through this life coaching program, keep thinking about how you can apply what you learn, not just to your understanding of coaching, but that each session builds on what you learned previously. It's really, really important. There are a number of life coaching models, to be sure, but the three which I would like to introduce you to are these: the clear coaching model, the stepper coaching model, and the Oscar coaching model. So as you can see here, in each particular case, these the names of these coaching models are represent, you know, what the model really is all about. So what is a coaching model? Well, a coaching model, put simply, is the structure that you use as coaches to frame the work that you do with your clients. The model is the frame, it's the structure around which you do your work. You will choose a model, I'm sure, at some point. You'll create some structure, some frame, and really what you're being encouraged to think about here is the model that suits you best, the model that suits your clients best. Which model do you think suits you the best? Which one do you think suits your clients? Which of these models, if any, do you think would be particularly effective in helping your clients achieve the goal that they set for themselves working with you? There are a number of coaching models available to you. They're all of value, they're all interesting, they all work, they're all effective. One of the best known coaching models, and one which is very popular with life coaches, is the GROW model, which we've already explored. And really that is the most, I would say that's probably the best known coaching model. It's certainly one which all coaches need to be familiar with. And I think it would be true to say that all other models are really variations upon the grow model, alternatives to the grow model. They're not really setting themselves up in opposition to the grow model. If anything, they extend it a little bit and add something effective to it. But again, let's just remind ourselves of why the grow model is so popular. Effective questioning, your ability to use questioning purposefully and powerfully within the work that you do is one of the most important strategies available to you as a coach. Effective questioning is one of the most effective strategies that you will use as a coach in the work that you do. And the grow model is popular partly because it's all about questioning. It's all about effective questioning. So let's just remind ourselves briefly of the grow model. So the grow model, as I said, it's a very popular and effective coaching framework centered around effective questioning. But it starts off with, but it is a structure. It starts with the setting of goals, the grow model, setting goals. Then moving on to assess current reality. What is the client's current situation? What do they want to achieve? What is their current situation? What do they want to achieve moving forward? What do they want to achieve in the future? So we're getting some sense of what they want to achieve, but it's also important to determine where they are now. What's your current situation? Where are you now in relation to where you need to be? So let's talk about options, generating options. What options are open to you to achieve that goal? And having explored options, what's the best way forward? Where do we go from here? How do we get you started? What's your first step going to be? What are you going to do next? Let's talk about getting things moving in terms of you moving forward to achieve that goal. So the kind of questions that you might ask in relation to this, a question around goal setting would be, what is the issue that you would like to work on today? So that's setting a goal for the actual session. You might set goals for the overall process of coaching, but you will also set goals within each individual session. What would you like to achieve today? What would you like to get out of this session? What would you like to work on today? Your client will discuss with you what it is they want to work on. Excellent, right? What is your current situation? That's what you want. What is the situation currently like for you? And then what options are available to you? What opportunities are available to you for working on this issue? So that's the issue. That's what you want. What options are open to you? What opportunities do you have available to you that might help you get that? And then the way forward. What is your first step going to be? That's what you want. What are you going to do next? What are you going to do now? What's your first step going to be? So it's a really structured model, really, the goal model, but it's really purposeful, and it really does emphasize the importance of effective questioning. So the other coaching models which may be of interest to you include the CLEAR coaching model, established by the coach Peter Hawkins, the STEPPER coaching model, created by Angus MacLeod, and the OSCAR coaching model, created by Whittleworth and Gilbert. So let's have a look at those, each one in turn. So let's start off by looking at the CLEAR model, where CLEAR stands for contract, listen, explore, action, and review. Contract, listen, explore, action, and review. So let's have a look at that. So the CLEAR model, as I said, was developed by Peter Hawkins and is considered by many to be a viable alternative to the GROW model. Many people consider this to be a very, very good alternative. So as I've just said, CLEAR stands for contract, listen, explore, action, and review. So let's have a look at each one of these stages in a little bit more detail. So contract. So contracting is really the process that you will be engaged in when you first start working with your clients. Contracting is establishing the ground rules for your work together, establishing expectations. So before you do any work at all, you need to do some contracting. A bit like establishing a contract, an agreement, if you like. So you start the process helping your client establish what it is they want to achieve working with you. So there's a little bit of goal setting here in that you're helping them to get clarity on what it is you want, what it is they want to achieve working with you. But it's also important to discuss expectations and the ground rules for learning, the ground rules for working together. So right at the beginning of the process, what do you expect? What do you expect out of the process of being coached? What is your expectation? So when you're setting a goal in a sense is a kind of expectation, because this is what they expect to be able to achieve. But you're also talking about the reality of that, whether that's possible, whether that's a smart goal, whether it's achievable or not. But also, what do you expect from the process? What can I expect from you as my client? What do you expect from me as your coach? So you're being very, very clear in terms of what to expect. And again, the ground rules for learning, you're establishing what the ground rules are. So we will talk about this in a little bit more detail, but it's really important that, if you're going to be setting home study assignments for your client, that they understand that they're expected to do some independent study. More practical expectations would be, what you expect from them in terms of their attendance and their punctuality. What do you expect in terms of their attitude, that you want them to give this process of coaching the very best that they have to offer, that they're not going to give up easily, that they're going to ask for help if they need it. You can also discuss with your client what they can expect from you. You can expect me to deliver a highly professionalized coaching process. You can expect me to keep you on task. You can expect me to give you feedback. You can expect me, etc. Right? So we'll talk about this in more detail, but the contracting side of things is very, very important, because through contracting, both you and your client will know where they stand. Listen, right? Again, this is absolutely critical. From the moment you first meet your clients, you need to let them know that you are listening, right? Listening intently, deep coach, active listening. That you are listening closely, that you are listening actively to them. This is absolutely essential. So again, when we come on to talk about, we will go on to talk about communication skills and the coach, effective communication skills for coaching. So we will talk a lot about rapport building, how you develop a positive, constructive relationship with your client, developing empathy and understanding. It's absolutely critical. So we'll talk about that separately as a session within itself, but it's really, really important that you have at the back of your mind that you are listening to your clients and what they have to say, paying attention to their experience. And then you're moving into the exploration stage, the exploring stage, which is all about developing awareness and insight. Developing awareness and insight is critical in coaching. But with regards to this particular model, it comes in two forms, really. The first stage of exploring, this is about helping the client to understand and appreciate the impact that their current situation is having on them. So they've got a problem. What is the impact of having this problem? What does this mean to them? How's it affecting them? So this is what it, what is your current situation? How is this impacting upon you now? And then exploring two, challenging the client to think through the possibilities open to them, including what actions they can take to bring about change. This is your current situation. This is the problem. This is the impact, if you like, that this problem is having on you. This is what you want as a result of overcoming this problem and finding the solution. What actions do you need? What actions do you need to take to get the resolution to that problem, to get the results that you are looking for? And then you take the appropriate action. At this stage, you are supporting the client in taking bold, positive, constructive action as they move forward. They move forward, they're moving forward with purpose. And then reviewing the session, reviewing the week, reviewing the time that you've spent together. These kind of models can be used within a session. They can also be used as an overarching frame to frame the whole of the work that you're doing with them. So finally, you review the work that you do with them. You wrap up the session or you wrap up the work that you've been doing by reinforcing what your client has achieved, what you have achieved working together, the ground that you have covered, the progress that they have made. And you may also ask for feedback at this point, because you want your client to be actively engaged in the process of learning, in the process of being coached. Coaching is very much a collaborative two-way process. As we will go on to explore in further sessions, coaching isn't something that we do to the client. Coaching is an active process that involves them actively engaged in getting the results they're looking for. So we need to talk about that. We need to engage them in the process, giving them feedback, but also asking them for feedback, getting to know how things have gone on for them, what worked well, what worked less well, what would they do differently as a result of what they've learned working with you. What do you know now that you didn't know 60 minutes ago? What are you going to do differently as a result of what you've learned today? What is your first step going to be? And so on. And then we move on to the stepper model, which was developed by Angus MacLeod, as you can see. And this is a model that was designed to leverage the client's current situation, the context. But this places a little bit of emphasis on emotional needs as well, which is interesting. The emotional need to define and work towards predetermined goals and outcomes. So STEPPER stands for subject, target, identification, emotion, perception, plan or pace, and action or amend. Subject, target, emotions, perception, plan, pace, action. So again, let's look at those in a little bit more detail. So subject, understand the context and the subject under discussion. Understanding the context for the work that you're doing. Again, it's all about contracting, getting your expectations right, making sure that you're on the same page, right? That you're working together collaboratively, that you understand between you what it is you're working on. And then again, target identification, arrive at a clear goal or outcome. That there's the target. That's what you're aiming for. That's the goal, hitting that target. Emotions. So this model's quite unique, really, in understanding the importance of emotions. You know, what's going on? Not just what are you thinking, but what are you feeling? What kind of emotions are going on inside you? You know, what emotions are boosting you and moving you forward, but what emotions could be holding you back? What emotions could be what emotions might be kind of fueling resistance or procrastination? What emotions might be stopping you? So emotions can drive us forward, but emotions can also hold us back. And then perception, explore the bigger picture. How does this goal sit within the broader context of the client's life? So again, during the initial consultation, you know, when you first meet your client and you're establishing what it is they want to get out of the process of working with you, once you've done your contracting, again, you might discuss the process of being coached with you. That might be a standalone process with a clearly defined outcome, but how does that fit into the bigger picture? How does that fit into their life as a whole? So they're not just learning one or two independent skills, but what they're learning is actually of benefit to their life as a whole. And then the idea of planning and pacing is important, you know, defining a series of steps to take as you move towards that goal. This is where you are now. That's where you need to be. Let's define the steps that you take. Where do you need to be in 6 weeks from now? Where do you need to be in 3 weeks from now? Where do you need to be by this time next week? Where do you need to be by the end of this session? So we can step our way forward. And then action and amend, you know, reviewing the decisions that we've made, understanding what has been learned. What do you know now that you didn't know previously? What have you gained out of this session? How has this moved you on? How has it helped? Is really important. And then finally, the Oscar model, developed by Whittleworth and Gilbert. Rather than focus on the problem, this model focuses more specifically on the solution, which I think would be true to say that that's important in all coaching models, and it's important to define the problem, but it's even more important to determine what the solution is to that problem. So again, OSCAR stands for outcome, situation, choices, actions, and reviews. So outcome, this involves understanding what the client wants and how they are going to go about achieving what it is they want, how they're going to achieve the goal, how they're going to achieve the desired outcome. Situation is about establishing, where the client is now. This stage is about helping the client develop awareness of the skills, the abilities, the knowledge that they need to achieve the goal and how they feel about that. So what is your current situation, but what needs to happen to move you into an even better situation? And what skills do you need? What resources do you need to help you achieve that? What knowledge do you need? What awareness needs to develop within you to help you achieve that goal? Choices, we have choices and we've got decisions to make. So again, as a coach, you're helping your client identify what options are open to them, the fact that they have choices. Which choices are they going to, what choices are they going to make? What decisions are they going to make? What would be a good choice and a good decision for you to make right now? Which of those choices, which of those decisions could help you achieve the desired outcome? And then actions, again, identifying what improvements the client wants to see and how best to address these improvements. That's what's addressed in this particular stage. So again, as you can probably see in a lot of these models, it starts off with establishing the problem, reflecting on the nature of that problem and what needs to happen to overcome that problem, and then taking the actions required. So coaching, this is something that we'll be emphasizing quite a lot during our work together, is very much an action orientated process. Coaching is about what the client does to get the results they're looking for. It's all about taking action. Change comes about through proactively engaging in the right kind of actions, and then always reflecting, always reviewing what went on. The coach hold regular reviews using this model with the client to ensure that they're on task, they're on track, they're making progress. So coaching is whatever model you use, it's a structured, purposeful process. We don't just get together, sit down and have a cozy chat with the client. I'd like to suggest that coaching is a structured, purposeful process with a beginning, a middle, and an end. And the client comes out of that process feeling that they have learned something of value. So each individual session should have a beginning and a middle and an end. Your overall coaching work should have a beginning and a middle and an end. It's a structured, meaningful process, but we need to keep them on task. We need to make sure that they're not shooting off on irrelevant detours and distracting themselves and going down alleyways, keeping them focused and on task. Each of those models, each of those steps are similar: understanding the goals, the context, the skill set, the next steps, reviewing success and progress. Those are all important aspects of each one of those models. So in summary, there are a number of coaching models available to you as a life coach. We've got the clear coaching model, the stepper coaching model, the OSCAR coaching model, and then of course the GROW model, which continues to be very, very popular. They are the most popular, they are the most effective coaching models. So it might be worth experimenting with those models. You're not obliged to stick to just one. You can have different approaches if you wish to do so, but my recommendation is to keep it simple. Do the basics really, really well. You don't want to overcomplicate the frame that you use to structure your coaching model. Keep it really, really simple. And easy to understand and easy for your client to work with. But certainly experiment and play around with different models and find out which is the best one for you and which is the best one for your clients. Those are just examples. You may very well find that there are other models that interest you even more. I'd be interested to know if that is the case. So again, just finish with this lovely quote here. One of the most exciting things about coaching is the buzz you get when you push out of your comfort zone, come up with a plan, and put it into action. Life takes on a whole new meaning as you recreate your life or your career the way you want it. So I think that's a lovely quote summing up the power of coaching. One of the most exciting things about coaching is the buzz you get when you push out of your comfort zone, when you come up with a plan of action and you put it into action. And life, as she says, takes on a whole new meaning as you recreate your life or your career the way that you want it to be. Coaching is very much about pushing out of your comfort zone. You'll never achieve anything if you stay within your comfort zone. Think about it. You can ask your client this. Where do the most exciting opportunities that life has to offer? Where are the most exciting opportunities that life has to offer? Do they sit inside your comfort zone or outside your comfort zone? And of course, your client will say outside my comfort zone. So your client knows that the most exciting opportunities that life has to offer lie outside their comfort zone. So you've got to push outside your comfort zone if you're to achieve your full potential. But of course, doing that safely is really what having a coaching model is all about. It's all very well stepping outside your comfort zone, but you need to know how to do that. If you jump too far outside your comfort zone, you end up in your panic zone, and you don't want to be there. So you need to stretch. You need to stretch the outer parameter of your comfort zone just a little bit. So however limited your comfort zone was, you stretch it, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. But actually your comfort zone isn't really your comfort zone. It's your I'm not fulfilling my potential zone. You need to step outside your comfort zone. I mean, life is an adventure, so you've got to step out there and take it. Somebody much wiser than me, said that a boat in a harbor is safe. A boat anchored in a harbor is safe. But boats aren't built to be anchored in a harbor. Boats are built to go out there into the ocean. And it's exactly the same for us. But of course, when a boat leaves the safety of the harbor, it has to deal with the power of the ocean and the power of the waves, the power of nature. But that is what boats are built for. And of course, under the hands of a skilled skipper and a skilled crew, that boat will be steered through the ocean. A skilled sailor works with the power of the ocean and the power of the wind and the power of nature. A skilled sailor will recognize that nature is very, very powerful. You cannot defeat the power of nature, but you can work with its power. And I would say that that's the same with coaching. Human beings are not, we were not made to sit comfortably inside our comfort zone. We're meant to be out there exploring life and all that life has to offer. But you need to learn how to negotiate the challenges and the obstacles and difficulties of life. That's why we need a coach. And of course, life takes on a whole new meaning as a result of coaching, but that's what life coaching is. It's helping people make the most of their life. So questions for you to consider, quite simply. Which of the models under discussion appeals to you the most and why? What are the advantages and the disadvantages of each of those coaches, each of those coaching models under discussion? Have a think about it. Which of those models do you like and why? Which of them can you imagine being the most advantageous and why? Which might be less so? You might not know for certain until you put them into practice, but you can certainly have a little bit of a think about it. And I'm very much looking forward to hearing what it is you think about it. So thanks very much for listening, and I look forward to seeing you soon and to exploring your understanding with me. Thanks very much, folks. Bye-bye for now.